Okay, folks, I will begin and start with a brief introduction to WORAN. Once I can get my, here we go. So yes, this is the programme for today. I am Frances O'Brien. I chair the WORAN Committee of the OR Society, and I'm just going to do a brief introduction to WORAN and the sort of events that we run. I have a snoring dog in the background, so apologies. I will then hand over to Hazal, who's going to talk to us about LinkedIn and hopefully give us loads of useful hints and tips. During her session, we will be going into small breakout rooms where we can work on our own LinkedIn accounts and think about what we might want to do with those. The whole session will be over around about 2:15. So after Hazal's session and the small group work, we will have some time to come back into plenary beforehand. As ever, we do like your feedback for these events. We will post a link to this feedback in the chat. Please do complete it because that does help us with planning future events. So welcome to WORAN, Women in OR and Analytics. We are a network of the OR Society. As you can see here, we are delighted and very grateful that we are sponsored by a number of organisations from across the academic, practitioner and publishing spheres. What are we about? Well, we have two aims: to advance knowledge, interest and education in OR as far as it concerns women, and to support and empower women considering a career in OR. We run a number of online events and have been doing so for many months now. And these events are for us to have opportunities to get together and discuss interesting topics, to meet new people, to build bridges and learn from each other, to increase our network, and to have some fun too. As I mentioned, we run a series of events, and these two are the next two events in our calendar. So we have another session of lightning talks under the theme of OR for a Better World. This is where we invite multiple speakers to have 5 or 6 minutes to tell us about their topic of interest. And there will be, as ever, some time for breakout rooms for networking. That takes place on August the 26th. I hope you can attend. And then our next event will be actually at the OR 63 conference, or rather the day before OR 63, when we will have a single speaker delivering a talk for us. And that is scheduled at 4:30 UK time on September the 13th. So before I warmly welcome our speaker, we have a poll just to find out who's in the room, and I believe it's Hannah at the OR Society that's going to help us with this. Brilliant. We have 2 questions for you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Most at the moment we have a mix. Well, we have a mix of all categories. Early career and mid-career are the most popular ones coming about now. If that's everyone, Hannah, can we have the next question, please?
I think there is only one question. But,
oh, sorry. Okay.
Perhaps if Hannah ends polling, then you can share the results with everybody else.
Okay. Can you all see that? I have on my screen, it says stop sharing. So I assume that you can all see the results. You can. Brilliant. Yes. So as you can see, early to mid-career, you are in the majority, but it's great to see we have a diversity of backgrounds. So thanks very much for completing that poll. And without further ado, I would like to warmly welcome our speaker, Hazal. I'm going to stop sharing now. So Hazal, you can share your screen, and I'll hand over to you.
Everybody, can everyone hear me okay? Yes, the moment you start sharing your screen, similar to Francis, you can't see anybody, so I don't know what's going on. I was looking at the people who are attending. I recognize a couple of familiar faces from the last, I think, lightning talks that we've done. So I'm excited to, I don't know if you guys like recall that conversation, but I'm excited to see you again. So I'll do a really brief introduction and then we'll dig into the meat of the presentation, which is really all about, I think, demystifying some of the beliefs that we have when it comes to using social platforms like LinkedIn, and talking through how we use the platform to, I think, educate ourselves and also build more authentic connections. I think as I put the presentation together, it became more of a how do we use the platform to actually really educate ourselves. So there is a heavy focus on how data can be an enabler. I couldn't help myself. So we will definitely talk about that. But before I dive in, let me just get into the presentation mode. So I currently lead product analytics for consumer products at Wise, formerly TransferWise. The reason why I am invited, I guess, to do this presentation is because I spent about 4.5 years at LinkedIn before I joined Wise as an insights program manager, working a lot with the rich data that we had access to on our platform, related to what LinkedIn calls the economic graph. I've always been within the technology space, always working on consumer analytics to drive product innovation. But I think on the personal side, I'm really passionate about how data can be an enabler, and a change agent in our society if you actually know the right way to apply it and you know the information to look for. So I very much, while obviously I spent a lot of time at the company and I have a lot of affinity for it, I also have a lot of appreciation for the platform as a data professional. Because again, if you know where to look for information, it could be a huge resource for you as you navigate your career in terms of connecting with people, in terms of finding opportunities in however way we define it, which we will get into, as well as, understanding the global trends that are happening around your professions, around your industries, which are actually all accessible, attending webinars, events, etc. And I feel like we don't use the platform as much as we should in those areas. So that's the reason why I'm here. The talk will be about the platform, and we will have some hands-on time to actually get you guys to play around with your profiles. If there's anything that we can clean up and get up to speed in terms of the information that you have in your job descriptions, etc. We will go through that, but the majority of the time will actually be spent kind of exploring what you can and cannot do whenever you have a profile. So, and the reason why I think we're having this conversation now is because following the lightning talks, Ruth and I were talking about, it was an interesting conversation about LinkedIn, but there's such a notion that when you do share anything on the platform or when you do use it a lot, it feels like just self-promotion. And we really want to debunk that belief, and actually teach you how to use the platform to your benefit, and also the benefit of those around you. Let's dive in. Okay, so quick agenda is, again, we'll go through the platform, what you can and cannot access. I want to spend a little bit of time talking through what an opportunity is, and something that I feel really passionately about, which is around, did someone say something? Or nope. Okay. I heard something, but anyways, we'll talk about opportunity and we'll talk about the network gap and how we close it. We'll show you some examples of how the platform has been used in a beneficial way in the past and do some hands-on time. Cool. Let me just close these pictures. Okay, so we'll dive into the platform. I wanted to call out these numbers, and I'll actually walk you through some of the reports that I have open in my tab. But I wanted to take a step back before we dive in. And again, this is me being a data professional, but I wanted to call out some numbers. I think when you log into your LinkedIn profiles, potentially you see these numbers, but you're talking about a global representation of the workforce, right? With 800 million people being a part of the platform, with 57 million companies listed there on a daily basis, 15 million jobs, 38,000 skills that are listed, and 120,000 schools. So the reason why that's really important is because LinkedIn actually uses all this data that they have on the platform to educate the world on where the opportunities are, what the trends are in terms of skills development and changes. And they actually put together a lot of reports to educate you. There is a section, which I will go in a second, where you can access on a monthly, annually, quarterly basis all the information that they publish on what's happening in your industries, what's happening around the world. And I highly, highly encourage you to actually go in and see it as a similar to like you read. I don't know if anybody like reads the newspaper now, but any source of like any websites that you go in to educate yourselves on, you know, what's happening in your industries, this platform can actually be a really powerful one. So I linked, I'm assuming Ruth, maybe you'll send a copy of the presentation afterwards, but there are links in here. If that doesn't work, we can always send it to you guys separately. But let me actually, can you see these tabs? Yes. Can I see some nods? Yes, you can see it, right? Okay, cool. So I wanted to show you what I mean. So this is what LinkedIn considers to be the economic graph, right? So all these numbers that I took. And if you actually go to this page, which is just economicgraph.linkedin.com, you see all the reports that they've put together that actually I embedded into my presentation around, you know, what's happening. I think they have like different workforce reports across the globe that you could use. They have global ones. They have an opportunity report. So like if you go into learn more, you see all the trends that are happening. Again, this is more of a US market focus, but you can actually go in and see all the reports that you want to see across the different regions. And it goes into really cool things like, you know, by city and state, what's going on. And then you can also go into, I don't know why it gives me this error, and see, so the opportunities one was a really interesting one that I looked at. You can download here global reports, you know, across different regions, etc., and just have a read. This really helps you understand, I think, again, not just going into the platform to find jobs, but actually educate yourself on what's going on around the world in our global workforce. Another one I wanted to show is, sorry, this is like, there's multiple things on my screen, is around the Career Explorer. So again, I've linked this in the presentation, but this is a section that you can actually go into that you could look at any sort of function and industry that you're interested in and see any of the trends that are happening. This is a massive source of information, right? Like this is the type of work that we've done when I worked at LinkedIn, allowing you to actually see, you know, what skills people are developing and in what areas. This is highly interactive. So you can go in and see what's going on. You can, again, look at different cities and see how popular that industry is, see what jobs are available, what skills people are building. Hugely important stuff that I think we don't realize that the platform actually provides to you guys. And you can go in and look at all this information to figure out what to do with your career moving forward. So I'll go back to my presentation. So again, all of these are linked and definitely go in and have a look and see, you know, what interesting information that you find. The second section is, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about what opportunity is. And again, this goes back to, some of the conversations that I've had prior to this presentation, which was really about, do we use this platform just to find jobs? And I wanted to, again, LinkedIn published an opportunities report. So I took this from there, and it was essentially an overview of how and where people have used the platform. And of course, job-related opportunities rank at the top, like almost at 90% of people come into the platform to see what jobs are out there. But there were a lot of other reasons why people use the platform. And again, if you remember the 800 million number, you're talking about 400 million people coming to look for social opportunities, for learning opportunities, networking, entrepreneurship. And I'll share some examples of how that really manifests itself. But I want you guys to, if you take away anything from this presentation, I want it to be that this is really a platform that you can use in however way that you want to, whether if that's related to jobs, great. That's definitely a sweet spot of the platform, as well as all the other reasons you might be coming in to become a better professional. I've noticed that, a lot of you guys are early to mid-career, improving your skill set and ensuring that everything that you have under your belt remains relevant is hugely important. So coming into the platform for learning and networking will be highly beneficial. This is again, I included the link to the Career Explorer. I want you guys to really go in and look at the function that you're currently in, or the industry that you currently support, because the way that we're approaching opportunities and the way that we're approaching, I think, different careers has changed. Things are no longer linear. A lot of people develop skill sets outside of school and outside of their day-to-day opportunities, through webinars like this, through workshops and certification programs. And there are also a lot more jobs out there than we thought was possible. I think every day, as the needs of the industries and and our functions are changing, we're seeing a lot of different nuanced specific roles that didn't exist before. And it's really hard, if you're not actually staying close to what's happening, it's really hard to wrap your head around what's going on and what skills you need to build and what the trends are, etc. So I wanted to just call this out here, because even if you're not looking for a job or a job opportunity and not using the platform for that reason, it's really important that you, again, continuously educate yourself on what you need to be doing, and just use the platform as a research tool, and use all the data that you have access there. I called out this slide. Obviously, this is a women's group. This is a slide that I actually use a lot. I may have used it in our previous conversation as well. The reason why I encourage all of you to use the platform and connect with each other is because the data shows, again, coming off of the platform, that women tend to have a lot weaker networks compared to men on the social platform. And you can see the breakouts by countries. Obviously, it varies a lot. So if we look at the UK, women are 27% less likely to have strong networks. And what we mean by a strong network is, it's a network of people within the same industry that you are in. It's not just the people that you have met through your schools or your previous employment, but these are people that could be a resource for you. Again, not to just find jobs, but to educate yourself on what's going on within your industry, or even learning. Just a simple example is, at the moment, I'm trying to figure out how to build a A/B testing platform in my company. And I've reached out to a lot of professionals in my industry to understand how they approach that problem. I am not looking for a job at all. It has nothing to do with it. But the more connected I am and the more resources I have to ask these questions, the better of a professional I can be, and the better decisions I can make. This is really important because I think it really quantifies the point that we have a lot of hesitations in terms of, building a network around us and using the platform as a resource. And I really want to challenge you to break that notion and actually, use it to build a better community around you that you can use in whatever decision that you want to make. This is another stat. I think we had talked about it before as well. Women also tend to, ask for referrals. They're less likely to ask for referrals. They're less likely to apply to jobs because they think that they're not qualified. These are all the things that paint the picture that I think we are more hesitant sometimes to ask for things and to build a community and a resource repository around us when it comes to thinking about opportunity, again, in however way that we define it. And I want this to be in front of you guys, because whether you fall into that category or not, who knows, maybe you are very active on the platform. A lot of the women around you may not be. So you can also serve as a source of inspiration and a source of resource by actually, challenging them to step outside of their comfort zones and use, again, all the information that the platform makes available for your development. I wanted to call out, and this is more relevant for the hands-on section, but LinkedIn, we think about it as, it's a job search platform, etc. It's really a place that they actually take pride in the fact that it's a data company, right? So they produce all these reports to educate the world around what's going on, but it's very important that you guys understand it's a data company, meaning everything that you see, if it's relevant to you, it means that you did a great job setting your profile and letting the algorithm know that these are the things that you're interested in. And if you're not seeing the things that are relevant, it means we need to spend some time getting your profile up to shape. It's your experience will be as relevant as the information that you feed into the algorithm. They look at my profile and say, oh, she's in product analytics, she works in technology, and everything that I see is related to that because that's the type of stuff I'm interested in. There are social causes that I care about because I follow those companies. I connect with those people, and then the platform serves me more things that are in my area of interest. So that's really important, because I think, as we think about how to use the platform to our benefit, if you set it up in a way that lets the world know, okay, these are the things that I actually want to know more about, you will get so much more from your account and from everything that you're seeing. So again, I just wanted to call out some of the areas that people don't look at that I look at a lot. And these are all completely tailored to me because this is the type of stuff I spend a lot of time looking at. But, there are a lot of courses that you can take on the platform, or events that you can join, or people that you can follow that actually share relevant content that will be really valuable to you. So again, thinking about my background, I get a lot about data analytics, consumer insights, chief decision scientist at Google was someone that I should follow. You can see all these tech entrepreneurship guys. All the events are around product management. So these are all the things that I can go in and I can really easily say, oh, this is actually really relevant to me, and I want to take this course, or I want to join this event. And I don't actually spend too much time looking for these because they show up, because I probably make it really obvious in my platform what I'm interested in. We'll walk through this, but I also wanted to show, we talked about the skills piece. You can use, I don't know if you guys are familiar or have used, platforms like Coursera and things like that. LinkedIn has a lot of free courses that you can take, not necessarily certification, but just courses that you can take to improve your skill set. Again, lately I've been thinking a lot about how we build an experimentation platform. And I've searched a lot of, experimentation related videos that I could watch, as well as people I could connect. And I use it very much as a enabler in my job, and to figure out a roadmap for myself. And I feel like we don't necessarily use everything that is available in that capacity. So I challenge myself and I challenge you to actually, dig into the different parts of your profile and actually use it to your benefit. These are a couple of the screenshots that I've included. We'll again have a hands-on session where you get to see this for yourselves, but there is a search functionality where even within the posts that you see on LinkedIn, whether they're actually tailored to you or not, you can actually make them tailored to you, right? So you can go in. In the screenshot, I went into the post section and I said, I only want to see things like related to the internet industry. Give me the most popular ones. And I guess within the internet industry, it's a lot, related to, like, the first post was related to analytics. So that's super, super relevant. But I very much use the feed to tailor the content that I need so that I can go in and see, okay, what are people talking about that are in my industry, that are in my function? What are they sharing? What are they talking about? Are there any events or anything like that that I could join, or an interesting article that they've written? So, it can be your tailored, like almost Googling experience, but really on the professional side. These are also things that I care a lot about, right? Gender equality at work. Lately it's really interesting because I've been searching a lot about, going back to work after maternity leave and the rules and regulations that different companies have. So these are the content that I actually search for, and I can search for it in hashtags. I can search for it in, in the feed that I just showed you guys. That actually, helps me understand, okay, what are people saying about this? Similar to, in the next section, going back to the office, like remote work, what are people saying it? I recently went into, my team grew a lot and now I manage managers. I looked at a lot of tips on, what are some like more advanced like management tips and things like that. So I very much, I share these screens because I very much use the platform. Has nothing to do with job searching, as just like a knowledge gathering platform. And I can connect with Julie, I can connect with Tori, whoever I want to reach out to. And it becomes really, right before you guys joined, we were saying, are there any like etiquettes around how to send connections to people? What a great way if I just sent a message to Tori, let's say, and say, hey, I saw this great post that you had about going back to the office. And what you said really resonated, and I would love to connect with you. I think that becomes a really authentic way to actually show to someone, you're not just like spamming people and adding them as connections, but you're saying we have a common interest, or what you said really resonated and I want to see more of it. And that's why I'm sending you a connection. So I'll stop here because I want us to use the rest of the time to actually do some hands-on work. I did actually go through it a lot quicker than I thought I would. So maybe before we dive into the hands-on session, I guess, like, are there any questions? And then I'll kind of walk you guys through what we will do in the hands-on section.
Hazal, there are some questions in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Let me just, if you can see them. The first one I think was from Paula Carroll, who wanted to know how LinkedIn defines industry sectors or disciplines.
Yep. So it's all standardized. So they use, I think within the US, we used, like labor bureau categorization. So it's not actually a standardization that LinkedIn. So I guess there's multiple ways. So there's the source of truth that they use, and that comes from the specific countries and the governments and their labor classifications of what they consider to be certain industries and functions. And then what LinkedIn does is sometimes, so the industries themselves are automated. So when companies create profiles, depending on the verbiage that they have and however they like choose to select themselves, they get mapped to an industry. The functions and the specific titles are actually quite interesting. So we had a repository of, again, standardized functions, and we would look at what people used in their titles as well as the keywords in their profiles and build an algorithm that maps them to those standardized functions. So as an example, I was an insights program manager, right? So like it doesn't actually say anything about data, but I was mapped as a data function because within my profile and within, insights is also has been used synonymously with data. So we had that algorithm that actually mapped people to the different disciplines and functions. Does that help? Or was that the question, Paula?
Yes, thank you. Can I speak for 1 second? Is that okay?
Yeah.
The reason I asked was I was interested that when you talked about network gap, that people weren't connected with their industry. So I was wondering, are we using the right words to describe ourselves, or who is deciding what the industry boundaries are? So particularly within WORAN or analytics, we do such a broad sweep of connecting and doing interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary work. So I just wondered about the labeling that's used.
That's a really fair question. So I guess so the industry is actually refers to the field that you're in. So it's different than a function, meaning, so I'm in the technology industry, right? Like specifically the internet space, so like software, things like that. You might be an analytics professional in healthcare, in which case your industry would be healthcare, whereas your function would be data and analytics. So when we talk about the network gap, we talk about it in those two dimensions. So like, are you connected to people in your industry? So like, how many healthcare professionals do you know? Meaning not actually practicing, like they're not doctors or anything like that, but they work within the field of healthcare in whatever function that they have. And then the second dimension is, are you connected to sufficient number of people, or do you have a good network within analytics? And both of those components come into play, because ideally you want a mixture, right? You want to be connected to analytics professionals regardless of industry they're in, but you also want to be connected to people that are within the same field that you're in.
If I can ask one really quick one. So people that are academics, is our kind of industry then academia, which would be very broad?
It would be
Just
education.
wondering.
Yeah, you would be in the education industry. Yeah.
Many thanks. I don't know if anyone else has any quick questions, or whether can you raise hands if you do? If not, there will be opportunities at the end for some questions.
I see Hori. Oh, I think that was more of a comment. Okay.
Yeah, I think the others I've read in the chat, I think are comments.
Okay.
I didn't spot another question.
Okay.
I can't see any hands raised, so I would say let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. So what we will do in the next section is a couple of things. So maybe it actually helps if I just share my screen super quickly again. So, I just spoke a lot about, what's available to you, how to use the platform. I think you learn it by doing. So I wanted to spend majority of the time actually getting you guys to play with your profiles, check out different things. Maybe before we dive into that, I'll show you a little bit of how I approach it. But there are a couple of things. So the first one is, I consider to be basics. We specifically didn't position this event to be a, get your LinkedIn profile up to speed session. So please do this in your own time. Obviously, just as a reminder, you should have a profile photo, you should have a summary of what you do, a headline. I think when you create your profile, it asks you to do that anyways, and a complete job history. Again, I'm approaching it purely from a data perspective. Again, the more information that you have in there, the more relevant the platform will be for you. And it's very, very valuable. So, if it's not complete, please take the time. There are also a lot of resources, again, I think the company makes available to learn tips and tools. I can share some of the almost like pamphlets with Root, and maybe you guys can circulate that, or reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll send them over to you, just, to cover the basics. Another thing I wanted to call out is, when you go into your profile, and I'll demonstrate in a second, there are different things that you can turn on that makes, again, the experience as relevant as you want. So one of them was creator mode. If you want to become someone who regularly shares articles on LinkedIn with your community, you can turn on a creator mode that gives you a whole suite of analytics that you can see on the posts that you share, which is quite cool. Or maybe I'm just a data nerd, so I like seeing all the metrics on everything that I post, but that's a cool, neat feature. Can manage your network, etc. The piece that I want you guys to spend a lot of time on in the hands-on session is teaching the algorithm and tailoring your feed. So I want you guys to, start following people that are in your industries or in your functions. Save articles that you see as relevant so you can refer back to them. Register to events if you see anything that's interesting. Join groups and follow companies, and all of that, again, will make your experience really tailored. And then next time you come into the platform, hopefully you will see things like I do that are more relevant to my profession and to the information that I actually want to get from the platform. The last bit is, this is completely optional, but if there is someone in our group that says, I've really been wanting to share a piece of work with my network, or, share a cause that really resonates with me, I'll hop around to the breakout groups, and we can kind of see if we can help you to write a status update and a quick post that you can share with your network. And I think that could be a neat way to wrap things up. So again, as a reminder, we'll just go in and play around with the platform and ask each other a lot of questions. I will be jumping around in the breakout groups to answer any specific questions, but pull up your LinkedIn profiles and we'll dive in. I guess before we do that, I'll show you, hopefully everyone is familiar with this view, but the number one, so let's just go into my profile really quick. So, these are the basics. This is the bit that I was talking about. So, I have the creator mode on, I can manage my network, I can add any other information that I want to add. This is a nice, handy way to access anything that I have saved during my time at using the platform, so I can always refer back to it. So have a look, make sure your career history is up to date, etc. And then this is the search bar that I think is where a lot of us will spend time. So when you just go into search, you can search anything, right? You can search different schools, courses, companies, people, etc. So let's start playing around with it and seeing, what types of things show up that you might be interested in, again, saving and following. I'll stop sharing. How do you feel about accepting connections? Should we answer these questions or should we come back to them? What are you feeling? Francis, Ruth?
I think it would be helpful to look at these questions, because I think we might actually need to say a bit more about what exactly we're trying to achieve, because around the group, I think what you're saying is you've talked really about how, I think you've talked mainly about how we can make sure that the things we see are good learning opportunities for us. But there are the two other things that people want to do is, who do you want to be connected to and why? And how do you get people to see and listen to what you're talking about?
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
Just pick those two, and I think that that goes with Rosemary's question on how do you feel about connections? Anna's point about and there's quite a lot in the chat now. So
yeah, so let's
Anna's Anna and Huri and Rosemary's question, and so I think perhaps you talk about around those, and we have a clear idea of what it is that we really want to achieve by playing with our profile.
Yeah, let's definitely dig into that. These are all great questions. So I guess I think about it in two stages, right? So I just spoke at length about the research and using the platform to see what's relevant to you. That's step number one, right? You want to use the platform to find the things that are of interest to you and find the people that you want to connect to. So again, you can find relevant people by going into the search function and going to the people tab and seeing, people in your industry or in your function. It will already, the algorithm will show you the most relevant, meaning, it might be connection of a connection, or it might be someone that's popular. They're followed a lot because they share articles a lot. So these are usually more like LinkedIn celebrities, right? Like people who are really active on the platform because they share a lot of information. So that's one way. You can use the search function to actually see who would you be interested in connecting with. One other way that I like doing is I go into company pages. So I'm just making it up. Let's say I really like the way that Spotify builds an experimentation platform because I saw, like a video about one of their like data leads talking about it. I can go into the company's page, and within the company page, it will link you to all the employees that work at Spotify. So you can actually go into that section and specifically say, okay, I want to see data people that work at Spotify, and see if there's anyone that you actually would want to speak to. So there's a lot of different ways you can navigate it. You can go to a foundation that you really speaks to the causes that you care about, see the people associated with those foundations and reach out to them. So I find that to be a really organic, like meaningful way to build connections. So it's not just like going into the platform and adding whoever you find relevant, but being really thoughtful about why you're connecting with them and why the things that they might say or share is relevant, and actually including that in your outreach. I was giving the example of that post that I saw from someone. What a great way if I reached out to them and said, hey, what you said really spoke to me.
And that also is an incentive to us to write our profile and whatever we put on there in a way that will attract the sort of people we do want to attract.
Yeah,
so it's so that the people who do get in touch, if they want to get in touch, will actually recognize who you are and not just have your name and job title or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's such a great point. I mean, it works both ways, right? So I just spoke about the perspective of you actively searching for people to connect with. There's also the other side of you showing up in the searches that people have. And the more relevant your profile is and the more up to date your profile is, the more you're telling the world, this is the type of, these are the areas that I actually want to talk more about. These are the areas that I really care about. So if you do too, connect with me. So also similarly, when you do reach out, if your profile is not up to date and all they have is your current job title, they know nothing about you. So even though you know that they are relevant to you, they don't know that you are. So they might just decline your, connection request because they'll think, oh, like I actually know nothing about Root. And so like, why would she want to talk to me? So it kind of like works both ways. There was a question about sharing your work in publications. I wanted to touch on that. And then Paula, let's talk about Paula's because it's about connections. So there are a couple of ways that you could do it.
That's actually Rosemary's. I won't take credit for Rosemary's.
Oh,
but it's,
okay. 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 So let's talk about that. So I receive it a lot too, right? So I definitely receive a lot of connections from people that are relevant, that are in my industry or in my field. But I also get a lot of connection requests from people overseas. I know nothing about them and they're just reaching out to build their network. I very much care about if they sent a message. Like I think a lot of people just send it and like have no explanation. And if I don't know them and what they currently do today, or I have nothing to go off of in their networks, I actually decline because it does clutter your network and you might start seeing, updates from them that isn't relevant. So feel free to decline them. I definitely do. I do respond, you do receive, try to look at if they've sent you any sort of description. A lot of people reach out because, especially overseas, they use the platform to build a network outside of their country. And that's something personally that I care about. And this is the bit around, closing that network gap. It's not just for us to build a network around, you know, the industries and the functions that we care about, but being a resource to the rest of the world that may not have as much of a community and as many resources as we do, you know, in the UK or in the US. So sometimes they say, you know, I'm looking for opportunities overseas, and I need advice on how to navigate that. And I've done a lot of international moves. I feel like I have the bandwidth, I accept an offer to have a conversation. So it's completely up to you. But if you have nothing, if they send you nothing and you have nothing to go off of, I encourage you to just decline those. I think there's no right or wrong, but it's a completely personal decision.
We've used up all of the spare time that we had before that.
Let me answer the publication bit, because I wanted to, that could actually be handy, like going into the hands-on session. So so when you go into your feed, there's a section that says, I think, like, what are you thinking, or what's top of mind, something like that. That's essentially your status update. So there are two ways that you can actually share the work that you've done. One, you can actually write an article about it. So you can go into the articles sections and create an article, and it kind of works as like a Medium post, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Medium platform, but you know, you can add an image and like write a long form article about the piece of work that you've done and share it with your network. So that's one easy way to have that. You know, if you want to share something detailed, you very much can. You can co-author it with other people, etc. Another way you can do is you can just share a status update. That is shorter. There's a character limit. It's not that short. So you can, like, you know, share a paragraph or so about a piece of work that you've done and link your publication. I think, you know, Ruth and I had talked about that feels like self-promotion. I personally think if it's a great piece of work, you should share it, and you should own the fact that you've done a great job, and your network should know it. But again, writing an article about it and maybe talking through why that piece of work was really important could be could feel like a less intrusive way to share it with your network, because you're getting into the meat of your work. Cool.
I just wanted to quickly add that even Bill Gates does a lot of that too. So
Yeah.
don't be shy.
Yeah. And, you know, I mentioned I think there's a lot of mental barriers that we set that actually prevent us from connecting with each other. I have built a lot of really genuine connections purely on LinkedIn, because, again, an article that I saw really resonated, or I shared an article and it resonated with someone else, and we had a great conversation about it. Of course, with any platform that you put yourself out there, you will get people that are irrelevant. They say something that is not relevant. You just kind of need to, you know, see past that, and, you know, really focus on the value that you're getting. Yeah. Awesome. Should we go into the breakout groups? So I guess as a quick reminder, just play around with the platform, ask each other questions, maybe share practices around how you use it. And again, I'll be jumping around to see if there are any specific questions, and go from there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
If I share my screen, there's one slide on there. There we go. Are we all back in the room?
I think we are. I think we ended all the breakout rooms.
Okay, brilliant. So, oops, hang on a tick. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you found the breakout sessions interesting. We certainly in our group had an interesting range of perspectives. So I just like to, I'm conscious of time and do like to stick to time. So first of all, I'd say if you're not a member of WORAN, please do join. There's a link here, and please do give us some feedback on the session. I hope you were all able to ask Hazal the questions that you wanted to. Big thanks to Hazal for those introductory comments to LinkedIn. I certainly learned a lot. I had LinkedIn opened on my phone, and when I went into the breakout room, I realized I wasn't connected with everyone in the breakout room even. So that was an interesting experience. And there's certainly been plenty of stuff in there for me to go and check how I've actually set my profile up and what I'm using it for. Thanks very much to Hannah and to the OR Society for hosting the session. Thanks to you all. I'm just wondering, before we sign off and say we hope to see you at our lightning talks on the 26th of August, I'm just wondering, Hazal, if people still have questions, what's the best way maybe that they could get those questions to you? Is it through LinkedIn?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to be good and respond. I think there are some that I miss, but yeah, I think let's definitely connect on LinkedIn and send me any and all questions, and I'll try to get back to you. One bit is it's more of a question for you guys or for the organizing team. I'd love to be able to share the links to the reports and also, again, any sort of like pamphlets that or virtual, tools that LinkedIn has with the group. What's the best way to do that?
I don't know. We can check with Hannah at the OR Society how we can do that. I mean, this session is being recorded. I wonder whether we can embed the links when we post the recording, whether that is possible. I don't know. If not, we'll find some other way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
maybe if you email them to all of to Hannah sent myself, yourself, and Ruth, I think, an email just before the session. If you send what you'd like posted to all of the three of us, then we can make sure that we get that posted up there.
I think we can ask Hannah also. Sorry, Hannah, just talking about you, what you can do. We can ask Hannah to send an email to everybody who registered for this, which was probably getting on for twice the number who actually made it. So send an email to everybody who registered with the links. And if you don't mind including the slides, then with the slides as well. And then the recordings usually go up pretty quickly. So, and Sheema's just asked me to resend the feedback link.
I wasn't able to click on the link that you just sent, Ruth.
No, I can never click on the links in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Let's try to send it again, but it's, yeah, we'll see. But sorry, I don't know why I'm talking now. Cut that bit off the recording.
No, you're okay. You're okay. So thanks, everyone. Special thanks to Hazal, and hope that we will see you all on the 26th of August.
Lovely to meet you all.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.